I am super nervous to stand in front of you today. It's really great that this is the first event that Black People in Sports has done, and it's an event in the North, an event that's focused on women. This is going to go up and down like my squiggly career. So I started off my career as a mature learner because I wanted to do good. I wanted to change the landscape of television for my eldest son because people used to tell him as a young black boy he had to fight. And I never really got that because we're quite a peaceful household, and I wanted to know what other people were seeing that made it assume that that's what he had to do. And as embarrassed as he may be, he's still the stake that I stick in the ground. You've all met my daughter here. She's very much like me, but he isn't. When he was leaving school, he was great at English, not very great at maths, but he wanted to be a scientist. But he loved football. On one note as well, I told you it'll be squiggly, I'm a football fan and have been since I was 13. I've been an Arsenal fan since I watched Ian Wright do a bicycle kick against Crystal Palace, and I fell in love with him and then fell in love with the club after that. They sent him off because they didn't think he was going to be a scientist to be a FIFA coach. Now, I thought to myself, how ridiculous is that? This guy loves statistics. He's great at English. Why did they not send him off to be a football journalist? And it's because in their realm, that's not what he should be doing. He should be going off and teaching people to play football. And that, to me, was the start of the seed planting that broadcast is a big place. Sports is a massive space. We live in Leeds. We've got Leeds United. We've got 2 big clubs in Manchester. Why are more people not being told about the benefits of sport? It took me a good few years to get to where I am today. By trade, I'm a talent development lead. So I help people get into TV with the hope that they stay in TV. And it's funny you mentioned screen skills. I'm actually a freelance project manager for them. So the last thing I did for them was adolescents. And one of the things I'm really skilled on is outreach. Getting out to young people, getting out to career changers, and really telling them about the benefits of television and how they can get in and how they can build a network. And I fast forward to where Black People in Sports come in. I went to a networking event in London because sadly, most of my work isn't in the region I live. I cannot sustain a career myself being based in Leeds. So everything I do is either in London, even America now. I go to San Francisco quite a bit now to do leadership work. And I think that's so sad. You know, we really need networks, really need communities. And what was so important to me was I met a guy, and he was at like a high-end TV event, and he said to me, Sam, I want to be a director in sports, but every time I go into the facility, I'm the only black guy there. I never see anybody like myself, and I'm really lonely, and that's why I'm here today. So I said to him, right, let's set up this group together. Let's set up a WhatsApp group, and let's see who joins. Now, to date, we've got 77 people, and I think we've got a couple more pending, and it's growing, which says to me that there's a massive need for groups like ours to help support people in the industry. Now, coming from my roots, I used to work for Screen Yorkshire. I used to run a programme called Beyond Brontes, so I know very much about Sharp Futures. And I used to help young people coming in up to 30. But one thing that I identified was there's lots of great things happening in that sector, but how do we get people who are already in to stay in and to progress their careers? So what we're focused on is that element. It's making sure that the people who are already in understand about the mentorship, sponsorship, training, and the technical skills that they can use in order to sustain their career. And also the career pivot. That's something that I haven't heard us talk about at the moment. So whenever I speak to talent, I'm always like, have you considered sport? Yeah, there's a downturn in HGTV, there's a downturn everywhere else. Sport is just like telling a story. It's the same thing. You can sustain a career by doing this. I'm also on the board at Leeds Playhouse, so another thing that I love to do is talk about the creative industries as a whole and how we can career pivot in that sense as well. So it was lovely to hear what you said in terms of, you know, people in theatre can work in our industry too. When everything is not going well, let's come together. But I think for me at the moment, what I really want to do is make sure that as a community, we keep growing, we keep engaging. And in fact, one of our first biggest initiatives is we're going to Cannes Lions in June. Because one thing that I really want people to understand is sports isn't its own thing in isolation. Sports, marketing, live production, branded content all sit together so nicely together. And unless we tell people about it, people are just going to think that sports is just that. It's just what happens on the pitch. And it's not. There's a whole community, there's a whole landscape that we really need to get together. So I would love to talk to you about that, because we're looking for sponsors to help us get 4 black creatives over to France to get themselves out there, to learn to network, to build their careers, and also to be part of this whole landscape, not just because the majority of people I have, unfortunately, are in London, which saddens me a bit, because I would love to do more stuff like this instead of having to travel all the way to London to meet with the people in my group. But we really need support. You know, I've always felt like a bit of an interloper in this industry, because I've kind of dug out a career just by being a professional nuisance. As I say, like, I've always got things to say, but I really want to make sure that I help other people in the way that I've been helped. And as I said, this conversation was going to be squiggly because I didn't have a plan of what I was going to say. But please come and find both me and Alicia. We'd be happy to speak to you about what we do and what our plans are, and also happy to see if we can network with more people. Lucy, I have to give her a hand, has been the best person for me. Look, I can see her squirming a little bit, because she was the first person that I met when I first started this to listen to me, and she supported me all the way through this. And I'd like to meet more people as well who can help and support our challenges that we have, and also understanding that the barriers that people have are perceived and actual. That so whatever you think the barriers are, it's going to be very different. Alicia mentioned economic barriers. Confidence is a major thing for a lot of people that end up sticking in one career when they could move on, and it's because they don't know how to network to move on. So there's lots of things that we can discuss and lots of ways that we can work together, and I think that's it. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sam.